I'm Dr. Akeranda Smith. I'm a life coach, professor, and a thought leader.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ike, and welcome back to my channel. Before I jump in, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for everyone who has found value in this space. If you know of anyone who could benefit from this channel as well, I just ask one favor, and it is that you share it with them. I would greatly appreciate that. And as always, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and let's jump in. So this week, I wanted to talk about a subject that was near and dear to my heart, and that is self-mothering. And one thing I know for sure is that when you haven't been adequately mothered, you inevitably make other people your home. And what made me think about this notion is one day I was having this really intimate conversation with my daughter, which we have these conversations all the time. Shout out to Canada the Great. She's an amazing human being. And as we were having this conversation, I was looking at her and how she was looking at me. And she was looking at me with such intent, and she was smiling, and she looked at me with such gratitude. And I knew at that moment that I was home for her. But at that same moment, I also knew that I had never experienced that with my mom. And in all my life, I don't think it had dawned on me until that very moment. And when I recognized it, it made me sad. And I'm going to tell you, you can understand something your whole life and just keep it in front of you and grapple with it, heal it. But even as you heal it, you can come to new revelations in which you begin to realize, wow, I didn't realize that this thing still was a problem for me. And that's when I realized it in that moment. I realized that I had no home to go back to, because mothers are home. When you have a good mom, a mom that has had the luxury of having herself before she has anyone else, a mother that loves herself fiercely and allows you to be the fullness of who you are by loving you and affirming you and guiding you and protecting you, that's a wonderful thing. And I realized that I hadn't had that. I had a mother who cared for me. I had a mother who loved me in her own way. But if I would be honest, can I say that I had that thing that Canada has with me? No, not at all. And so for me, I realized that I had a home. I had no home to go back to. And so it changed the way I mothered myself, because I realized that when you don't have a home to go back to, you have to become your own home. And so that realization took me back to a conversation I had with my mother years ago. Because me and my mom have always had a very complicated relationship, and we've been estranged more often than not in our lives. Now we're at a point where it's not low contact anymore, it's no contact. And I do that for my own mental health, and I also do it because I believe that you can't heal in the same place you got wounded. And so for me, not having my mom in my life has allowed me to be a better mom and a better wife and a better friend and a better everything, because I don't have that muddy relationship that makes how I love other women cloudy. But one day my mom was having a conversation with me and my wife. And in that conversation, she said something really profound. She looked at us almost in the same way that Canada had looked at me. And she looked at me and my wife and she said, you know, I wish I would have known how to be bettering my marriage. She said, I always put my family before my marriage. And she said, I wish I would have known not to do that. And she said, your dad would always complain and say, you are always running after your family. You never take care of me in our home. And to be perfectly honest, my mom, she didn't know to do any other thing than to be obligated to her family. She was the oldest. There was an expectation of what she was supposed to do. And she didn't have the courage to say, you know what? I don't want to do that. My marriage, my family, my nucleus is more important. And mothers break our hearts because they've never healed theirs. And in that moment when she was sharing that many years ago, and when I was putting the scenarios together with how Canada was looking at me and how she had looked at me in that moment, I said, wow, my mom was destined to break my heart. She had never had the space to explore what it was like to be her own woman. Or better yet, she never had the space to explore what it was like to be loved by a woman who had loved herself so fully without ever needing anything from her daughter. See, I was raised in a culture where, in modern day terms, by women who were pick-me women. And the daughters cared for the mothers and the mothers cared for the sons. And I know you're probably asking, well, who cared for the daughters? You ask great questions. Nobody. And when you have a culture or a family in which daughters are not cared for, you have women who don't love themselves, who struggle with self-esteem, who struggle with relationships with women, who struggle with trusting others. You have women who don't know how to decipher when something is a mistake and when something is really truly what it is. You learn to be women who fear being abandoned even when that's not what's happening. And so I came up in a family like that. So for me, I understood that it was so important for me to learn how to be for myself what my mom could not be for me. And if I could be honest, even what her mom could not be for her. It's not enough to just care for daughters. It's not enough. As a woman raising daughters, you have to have yourself so that you can properly love and nurture your daughters as if they were a garden, which I do believe that women, that's what we are. We're gardens. And in the right environment, with the right water and the right fertilizer, we can bloom into the most beautiful human beings ever. But unfortunately, without the proper care, we can be unrecognizable to ourselves. And so I've learned to be my home. And so what that's looked like for me in this season, it's been a lot of grieving. It's been taking time to hold myself so tightly. Because mother injuries, they're deep. They're palpable. You can feel them even when you don't feel them. You have moments where you're like, ooh, that still hurts. Or that bothers me. And I don't even know why it bothers me, but it does. And for me, I've had to really hold myself tight in this season because I've never wanted to spill my lack of care and love onto my kids. But I'm going to be very honest, it's been hard holding myself in the places that I never was held. holding myself in the places that never was held. And so that's a skill that I've been learning to do in this season. And don't get me wrong, I've always mothered myself. But in this season, with that new revelation, when my daughter looked at me, I said, wow, this home needs a renovation. And so ways that I've been renovating my home, metaphorically, meaning me being the house, is by removing relationships from my life that don't appreciate the mother in me. When you're a mother and you have the capabilities of mothering other women, it is easy to find women who only want the mother, but not the responsibility that comes along with it. I'm a firm believer. If you are in someone's life and they are good to you, you should be a representation of that goodness, even if you had a mother that wasn't good for you. And sometimes when women are not self-mothering themselves, you can still be a woman who can be being loved, but still be mean. You can be a woman who can still be loved, but still be petty. You can still be a woman who is being loved, but still act out. And so what I've realized in this season is that I can't have women in my life that aren't doing their work. It's not just enough for you to love me and love what I have to offer and not be doing the same thing in your own garden. Because for me, that's activating. Because I'm going to tell you, you are responsible for your healing. And no one gets to lament about the fact that you didn't have something. No, it is your responsibility to be better to yourself so that you can be better to others. But unfortunately, because the mother wound is so deep, just like the father wound, some people give themselves permission to not be accountable. So, do we ever stop needing a mom? Unfortunately, no. We just have to find better ways to reestablish what maternal comfort means. And so for me, in this season of my life, I am doing for me what I have been blessed to do for my daughter. And that is looking at myself in the mirror with the same gratitude and appreciation and realizing that I'm thankful that I didn't give up on me and that I allowed myself to still be a good and effective mother to my children, even though I didn't have what I needed. So, if you, like myself, are in your own season of self-mothering and reestablishing what that means, I would love to hear your journey and what you're doing. I don't feel that we ever stop mothering ourselves. And of course, even though I do this work, I think the most important work is the work that we do on ourselves. So, as always, thank you for watching and see you next time.